Hey, what's up, everybody? It's the Liberal Loudmouth. So today's video is basically a response to Kyle Kulinski. Now, please bear in mind that Kyle Kulinski and I really are politically and ideologically aligned, and largely speaking, he and I agree on most everything. So I don't want anybody walking away thinking that I don't like the guy or think he's crazy or whatever. But there was a video he did that he was just completely wrong on, and it needs to be addressed. The reason it needs to be addressed is that the mainstream media is collapsing, okay? If ever there was a thing called left-leaning media, which one could argue it's all corporate media, it's all neoliberal pro-media, but that media is collapsing. And a vacuum will be created when that happens. And it will be filled with people like Kyle Kulinski, possibly myself, if I can get my channel to grow. So go ahead and hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Shameless plug. But it'll be filled with people like Kyle who really have a responsibility to understand the fundamental problems that the Democratic Party has. And based on this clip I'm about to show you, he doesn't seem to quite understand it. And it's important that he realize that he is actually wrong. Let's take a listen to that clip, and we'll talk about it afterwards.
And so the discussion, I saw Bill Maher, I saw Jon Stewart, I saw different people, and did it hurt us? Of course it hurt us. And so Jon Stewart says, well, it couldn't hurt because no Democrat ran on it. Of course they didn't run on it, because it was even to the most clueless progressive that you could imagine by that time, they knew it was a death.
So he's saying that wokeness, identity politics did hurt us. And he's taking a direct shot at Jon Stewart for doing that segment that he did where he kind of mocks it as this hilariously stupid and off-base notion. James Carville has no idea what the fuck he's talking about. If he actually watched through that entire Jon Stewart piece, he would have seen Jon Stewart give multiple examples of Democrats doing the opposite of what James Carville is implying here. In other words, there were plenty of Democrats who were like, bro, you guys know me. I'm not in favor of sex changes. Literally, there was a Democratic ad where one of them said that. There was a Democratic ad where a number of them, where they're running on the issue of the border and being the toughest on the border. In other words, taking Republican issues and trying to be like, bro, I'm actually even stronger on this issue that I'm totally giving into your framing on. So in other words, Kamala and many Democrats both ran the platonic ideal of the non-woke Democrat campaign. But yet they're still saying it's wokeness is the problem. It's not. Kamala, as I pointed out 1,000 times, Kamala never mentioned race. Kamala never mentioned gender.
Okay, so his argument's pretty simple, and, you know, I mean, it's reasonable also, I'll say. Well, they didn't run on it, and those that did run with, you know, talking about it at all were against it. So, of course, it didn't have anything to do with it. The problem with that argument is it's missing the fact that this woke, you know, adjective that's used to describe liberals has been attached to the hip of the Democratic Party for years now. Years. So I don't know, and I don't even know that James Carville was making this argument necessarily. I'm not sure that there was anything any of them could have done about this during this election. You can't go for years and years and years with this affirm mentality. And I'm not talking just in campaigns specifically. I'm saying just in general, where the most vicious and loud voices that you see in social media ecospheres are the affirm crowd. Every book that's available that has, you know, all kinds of crazy things in it should be in school libraries because kids have to be able to know. And if they don't get to read these books, those kids are going to kill themselves, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I'm talking about. I don't think I need to go through the laundry list of crazy things that liberals have said. And even though to like me and probably even to Kyle, those are like on the left fringe of the Democrats. That's like a segment of the Democratic Party. Yet they're so loud and it's so ridiculous in what some of the things that they say are, that when Libs of TikTok takes a video of them, like, for example, a teacher, I can't tell you how many videos of teachers doing TikToks in classrooms that I've seen where they're like, yes, we're going to wokeify your kids, or we're going to do this to your kids, or we're going to teach them that it's okay to be gay, or I'm not going to use the pronoun that the parents gave, or I'm going to hide things from the parent. They posted this stuff over and over and over again for years, and it was effective. So whether or not the majority of Democrats are these, crazy out there, like, for example, here's a great example. There was this couple. It was a man and a woman biologically, but they were both trans. So they've swapped, and they had children, and they were like, well, we're not going to assign a gender at birth because we're going to let them decide. So they didn't even mark it on the birth certificate. And to me, I'm like, okay, there's a difference between sex and gender, and that's taking things a little too far. That is what turns a lot of people off, especially people in rural America, because like it or not, folks, most people in the rural areas, this isn't something that's, on their dinner table. It seems like an irritation where if they get into a conversation about, the bathroom, who's using the bathroom where, you're a bigot if you don't agree with what I'm saying. And this has been constant. And in fact, this happened to me. Seriously, I had Mediaite, Vice News, Media Matters for America, Huffington Post, all of these left-wing publications, as it were, posted articles about me, essentially calling me a bigot, saying that I was anti-LGBTQ. Why? Because my daughter had this book in the library that she checked out from the library. This book had all kinds of crazy stuff in there. I'm not going to list it because this is YouTube, but you can look up my name and I'm sure you can find it. And I ended up complaining about the book. So the school, not realizing that the book was actually there, took it upon themselves to go in there and pull all of the graphic novels off the shelves to review them and put them back, as they reviewed them. And that's what they did. And you would have thought I was Adolf Hitler himself. I had a postcard sent from Comic Legal Defense Fund calling me a Christo-fascist. Is the weirdest thing because I'm a lifelong Democrat and an atheist. I've been a supporter of gay rights and trans rights for as long as I can remember, even in high school. I was looked at like the Matthew Shepard story. I'm like, what? I don't understand why people hate other people like this because of that. It never computed with me, but that didn't stop this vicious just attack of anybody that disagreed with even the most reasonable things, which is to say that if my daughter can't hold hands in the school because it's not appropriate, why is she allowed to be able to see pictures of XXX rated content inside of a school library book, right? Go to the public library to do that stuff, y'all. It's just not appropriate for a school setting in any stretch or community standard at all. And to try and force it to be and to say, and this is something that I even heard, was that if you don't allow these books in the schools, kids are going to commit suicide. And that means that you're killing these children. I heard this from my own party members. Seriously. Now, I do want to point out that the story with the book had a little more context to it than that. It made national news because I ended up having to sue that school in federal court. I ended up winning, but I had to sue them because they banned me when I was lobbying to get the policy changed. And the Fox News ran a story, and of course, theirs had a lot more facts with the story than the people on the left. The people on the left never contacted me. People on Fox did contact me to get a statement, which I gave. The people on the left, they just wrote the story as an anti-LGBTQ story, which was interesting considering the book dealt with a cis straight male. And it was his life, growing up. I also have another story that I feel is worth sharing with this because it really drives home this divide that we're seeing even in the Democratic Party. There was this social media influencer. I'm not going to say this person's name or their gender. This person has millions of followers. This person and I are friends. And we have intimate conversations, about life stuff and their kids and this and that and whatever. And this person is, they became an influencer through the trans movement, essentially. Pride flags everywhere, wears all the rainbow shirts, all that stuff. But privately, this influencer says to me on multiple occasions, we've had this conversation. They're like, they've got 5 kids, right? And the first couple were trans. And this is what started this person's, move towards this trans right, which then led to them becoming a social media influencer. Then all of a sudden, the rest of the children became trans. Even the youngest one now, the 5th one, is now trans. And this person just the other day, matter of fact, said, I don't understand. This has to be a fad, and we're not going to do it this time. So this social media influencer who built their audience on being pro-LGBTQ and pro-trans specifically now is saying, I'm not going to feed into this anymore because this can't be real. Like, it's got to be some kind of a fad. These are not my words. These are the words of a social media influencer. That influencer has since stopped posting as much content as a result of this epiphany. And I think a lot of Democrats are starting to see the issue with this whole trans everywhere all the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, attack. You're a vicious bigot if you don't agree, etc., etc. And they did that with me, even though what I was doing had nothing to do with LGBTQ stuff. It was what's appropriate for a school and what's not appropriate for a school. And even in this comment section, I guarantee you, if this gets any play whatsoever, this video, there will be people in there that will call me a bigot. They will disregard everything that I've said. They will disregard my entire life that was spent pushing for gay rights and trans rights and everybody else's rights. They'll disregard all of that to call me a bigot and declare that I'm terrible, etc., etc. So, yes, this stuff absolutely did hurt the Democratic Party. And I don't know that Kamala or any of the other Democrats would have been able to successfully slough off that vicious stuff that came out of some of the Democrats over the last 8 to 10 years. I don't know that they could have. But this is also something that I've been complaining and warning about for years. So it's not like this should come as a surprise to anybody. So to Kyle, you and I agree on a lot of things, but you are just completely wrong here, and it needs to be addressed. And we can't address it unless we acknowledge that it is a problem. Anyway, I said that I would do this video, and here's the video. So I appreciate you guys watching. This is the Liberal Loudmouth, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.